why don't we talk about Succession? I mean, I can't remember. I mean, I can't remember, but for this year, there haven't been many TV shows where I felt like I needed to watch the finale or I needed to watch the episode as soon as possible to be part of the conversation. And I think this is the first time this year a show has really grabbed the zeitgeist in that way, and people feel like they wanted to be talking about it immediately after it happened. So last night was the 10th episode of the first season of Succession, which follows the Roy family, loosely based off the Murdoch family in real life. And it follows Logan Roy and Royco, right? It's Waystar Royco.
Yes.
Yeah, Waystar Royco, media company, and his 3 children, Kendall, Siobhan. Oh no, 4 children: Connor, Kendall, Siobhan, and Roman. I forget about fucking Connor. And then he comes in last night wanting to be, president. All of a sudden, it's like, what the fuck?
That's the seed, bro.
Yeah, and it's really just about how this family like fights for power, how they try to gain favor with their father, and how they just interact as a family in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. I think when we mentioned it on the pod 11 weeks ago or so, I said I was not going to check the show out because just with the way things are right now, political climate, following a Trump-like figure on a TV show, I want to kind of forget about that kind of stuff. Didn't really seem appealing in my downtime. But man, this show surprised the hell out of me. The first 3 episodes, a little slow. It takes a little build up, but there's enough there to say, I'm kind of interested. And then episode 4 hits, and if we're going to be going into spoilers, so after I give this breakdown or my breakdown on it, you might want to jump off. Once episode 4 hits, it's like a fucking rocket. Like, they found their stride. They found exactly what to do with each character to make them interesting and appealing, and they nailed it. So obviously I'm high on it. Give me your non-spoiler reaction to this show.
Yeah, and I think you hit on some of them, but there's a lot of surface level, like boilerplate things people were talking about at the beginning. First 3 episodes, wasn't really into it, kind of slow. Mm-hmm. It's like Billions with Veep.
Yeah,
I don't like these people. I can't relate with the 1% especially in today's climate. Like, all these reasons people are given to not like it, right?
Yeah.
And you spoke to the zeitgeist, and in a year without Game of Thrones, in a year without Stranger Things, even there was no monoculture show. I think it's close to the best show of the year, but shows like Atlanta and Barry and Killing Eve, those did not command such a week-to-week ride the way Succession did as it grew. I think coming out in the summer was probably the best possible time for the show, given that it didn't have to compete with anyone. HBO gave it a good push, and away we were. But yeah, I think the show was incredibly smart, compelling, always entertaining, and of course funny, and coupled by great performances that are none of these are A-list actors, but good actors, people you might have recognized or seen before, but most people you don't know of. And even someone like Brian Cox, who's the most famous actor on the show, he's not a lot of people are Brian Cox stans, right? So that's compelling. The fact that it wasn't based on a previous IP, it wasn't a mystery box show.
Yep.
Like, it was just an original story about power dynamics and family, and I think it's incredibly well done, and it's so rewarding as the show finishes out the first season. It's the first season that can stand alone. The show can end right now, and everyone be pretty satisfied. But it can also go in any direction for season 2. So, cannot recommend it more highly. Fantastic show.
Yeah, we're gonna be jumping into spoilers now. So if you haven't watched the show, take some time. I don't recommend you binge it because I think it's a show you should digest a little bit, but finish it in like 2 or 3 weeks and come back and check this out. Share it with your friends in the meantime who have watched it, because I want a lot of people to be talking about this with us, because this show commands it. I mean, you touched on a lot of the things that overcame a lot of the reasons people gave to not watch it. It's a show where you really don't like any of the people, but you're captivated by it. And obviously I think Kendall and his father and their relationship seems to be, the A plot, the main story of the season. But each relationship is very interesting with Logan. But why don't we start with Kendall? Because I thought Jeremy Strong was fantastic in this. And people probably know him from he had a small role in The Big Sick.
Big Short. Not the
Big Short. Sorry, not The Big Sick. Big Short. I don't really know what else you might have seen him in.
He was in some smaller stuff, but he was really more of a stage actor, honestly.
Right.
But he's the clear standout performer just because the arc Kendall has throughout the season. Again, those first 3 episodes, it starts out, it's like Kendall's by and large the protagonist for the audience. And it's like, yeah, but like, do I like this dude? Do I care about this dude? And yeah, it's tough to like him throughout the season. But man, does what happened to him make for good TV. And again, like, I think this show is so smartly made and so expertly scripted, but that it doesn't come off as cartoonish, right? And I think I saw some points going around that's like Kendall doesn't have like some big speech versus Logan, right? He doesn't have like an Aaron Sorkin come up its moment, right? It's just he just kind of goes up and then goes back down, and he's like, trying to take down his dad, and he keeps getting put down, and I think the whole arc is done so well. And Jeremy Strong, whether he's acting a character that's sometimes sober, sometimes not, having compel a lot of emotion for an actor who is a bad communicator. It's hard to get across as an actor. So I think he was great. And Brian Cox is another actor who performance that really grew throughout the season, both as Logan overcame a stroke and got strength, but also as they gave Logan more to do throughout the season, and kind of came clear what his character really was, how much monstrous he was, right? So yeah, I think their relationship was so compelling, and that's actually something about season 2 that I really, you could talk yourself into any new plot just because like where they go from here. They can't run back what happened with Logan or Kendall again,
Right. Yeah, you were talking about how he conveys so much without having a character that can really speak well. I'm thinking about last night's episode, like watching him walk up the staircase to give his father the proposal to buy the bear hug, and man, like you just watching him walk through that crowd, and you could almost see like every emotion that was going through his head in that scene. It's so well portrayed. And then his big line is, "I wanna do good things." Nailed it, dude. But you knew everything he was going through in that moment, and it's kind of crazy when probably the strongest thing he did all season against his dad called him a beast to his face. Other than that, every attempt he had, "You're a beast," fell short. And man, Logan is my winner of this season only because guy had a stroke. Which, I want to talk about writing. What a smart thing to do at the end of the first episode, because not only are you like, oh, I wonder how this is going to affect the rest of the family, but then it really pushes Kendall's storyline, because he feels like in that moment he needs to take on the head role, and then it's taken away from him, but he still wants it, and it's such a great back and forth. But I mean, he overcomes the stroke, he overcomes a potential overthrow of him, then he stops the bear hug when he gets the dirt on Kendall at the end. The whole time he is battling Siobhan's, the senator, the person Siobhan's standing for.
Sanders.
Exactly. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on. What other performances really stood out to you from this season?
Well, yeah, I think the show again doesn't have any like A-listers really, besides Brian Cox, just because of longevity. But it's a deep cast of talented performers, right? I mean, obviously all the kids are really good. Kieran Culkin as Roman, I think his performance is just interesting on a surface level, just because he's more like tuned up and amped up as a performer in those first 2 episodes, and then as they kind of like tweak Roman, the show gets stronger. Don't have a direct correlation, but something that happened. But Kieran Culkin's really good. I mean, again, he's Macaulay's brother. Rory Culkin's a little hot right now, but Kieran was in Fargo season 2, for example. Sarah Snook is great as Shiv. I think Shiv is probably the most competent of the kids, but also as you go through the season, also really hard to like and root for. And shout out to her as an Australian, really nailing the American English.
Seriously.
Matthew McFadden as Tom, also an Englishman, doing really good.
Yep.
American accent, and I think he's awesome. And he's someone who's like, oh, you didn't really recognize him, but yeah, he was in all these British prestige shows like Howard's End this year,
Mm-hmm.
and again, someone you it's so rewarding to have TV do what it used to do all the time back in the day. Oh, who's this dude? Oh, wow, I like this dude now. I didn't really know who he was.
Right.
And Alan Ruck, more famous than the other people, as Connor, another one who
Yeah.
he he's like like a lefty specialist in baseball. They use him for special roles in the show, and they start expanding his role to like a multi-inning reliever by the end, right?
Yeah.
And like you remember in the beginning, it was like, oh, let me have these freakouts at the dinner thing, right? And he has these great moments. But then like by the end, as they start to develop his relationship with his not really girlfriend, uh,
The hooker.
and yeah, and then he has some ridiculous things said in the finale leading up to that. So I liked him a lot. And then Nick Braun,
Yep.
revelation, definitely the big winner in terms of talent as
Yeah.
cousin Greg. Again, another character who starts out strictly comic relief, strictly someone for Tom to belittle, and they have a great relationship on the show, great chemistry. But then he starts to be, get a little Machiavellian, right? As
Right.
Kendall says, and really develop as a character and someone who I'm really curious to see what continues to happen to him. Greg the fucking egg, and even like some of the supporting characters, like Arian Moyed as Stewie.
Mm-hmm.
He's great too. So I
Yeah.
think the whole cast is fucking bananas in a great way.
Yeah, it's funny to think about where each character is really going this, what their motivations are. And I feel like the last episode did a really great job. The finale did a really great job of taking the three main ones, Shiv, Kendall, and Roman. I keep wanting to say Romulus because they call him Romulus so many times by the end. And like turning them back into children. Obviously Kendall after he crashed into the water and uh, kind of killed that guy. It's hard to, yeah, basically Chappaquiddick 2.0. Just the way he looks the next day is very like childish and small. That was a smart to put him with cousin Greg because he's just Nick Braun's such a big or tall guy. Shiv with Tom and basically being like a commitment phobe and feeling like she can't really really love anybody and make that sort of like long term solo commitment. And then
on her wedding night at that.
and then Roman watches his big thing to impress his dad literally blow up and then just wipes his mouth and acts like he didn't even know. Watching all three of them turn back into children was just incredible TV. And then you see Tom and how he's starting to kind of just get eaten alive by this family. Goes from being this like pretty sweet guy who will fuck with cousin Greg to actually being cold-blooded killer, making him put the wine back in the wine bottle because that was his parents' contribution to the wedding. So and Greg, like you said, he's the one who's growing the most, but he's probably the one that you can most purely root for because he's such a bystander. And he even says like, I'm glad you're buying this out because we need these family politics to stop. We need like all this evil backstabbing to stop. And it's like, no, dude, you don't get it. This is the family. This is the game, which is, and that's Logan's whole thing. Is
he's
power.
at the and cousin Greg's at the crux of one of the untapped threads for next season. All the documents he copied about sexual misconduct on the cruise line, right? That we still don't really know how the extent of it per se. Even worse. And you mentioned making the kids be back as kids again. Again, they're all like 30-something adults in real in the show, but I think that's how Logan knows how to handle his kids when they're actually acting as kids. He never, as far as we know, he never could really handle Logan or Kendall becoming an important member of the company. Part of that's Kendall's fault, being unreliable and maybe not as smart as he thinks he is, But it's interesting to see the kind of that full circle where like Logan has never felt more in control than he is in the finale. And judging off watching the pilot and then having Kendall plan not one but two coups, you just never would have expected it to end this and go this way,
Yeah. It's I think they did a really good job using things that could very easily have moved the season in a different direction, just as ways to portray people as people. You talk about um, like all the stuff with Connor and his hooker girlfriend, but really just trying to find somebody that he loves and can take care of and that can depend on him. And how kind of heartbreaking that is, that it has to be this person that he was literally paying to be with him. You talk about Kendall with his children and how that was used to really kind of show his own like insecurities and his own inability to feel like he has a handle on his life and what it means to be an adult. And then his drug use as well, which can usually kind of derail a season. That's what his whole arc could have become about, but it was used more as just a way to show that this was a person who has a lot of demons and can't really cope. And obviously it was used as a driving force towards like the big Chappaquiddick moment.
Driving force, eh?
There we go. But yeah, just and a lot of really great plotting and writing, and the show can, like you said, can go in 100 different directions with all the stuff that they've talked about this season. Do you think this is a show that can have like a long standing time on HBO? Because like we said, we don't really have characters here that we like other than maybe Greg.
Yeah,
and Tom.
I think 3 seasons would be perfect.
Yeah,
you kind of seems like that could be you could foresee the Jesse Armstrong, the showrunner,
yeah,
probably had, and the writer and the creator of the show, he probably has something like that in mind. And this isn't on Showtime. Billions on Showtime, which by all accounts, there's 3 seasons has never been better. That shit going for 7 seasons because it's Showtime. That's just
yeah.
But I don't think the Let's Session go that deep. This is not like Veep per se, which is straight comedy. I think there's this should be a little shorter. And fuck, they run such a heater. Episode 6 is when Kendall has the failed coup with the trafficking shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have Austerlitz, that great episode when they go on that like fake family retreat, right?
Yeah.
And then Prague, probably just a flat out funniest episode of the season where they have the bachelor party for Tom and the load swallowing. And then the final 2 episodes all around the wedding, and it's just everything coming to a head. And they had such momentum going into the finale, and then they managed to top it with perhaps the best episode of the season.
Yep.
So I would hope that they do less. I'd rather be wanting more than go too long, just because it's just so well written and so smart. I would hate to see it decline in quality.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, I think once Logan dies, which I think will probably be how this show will end eventually. Rupert Murdoch's family, or Rupert Murdoch, sold the business before anyone in his family could actually take it over. So, if they're following that as a blueprint, they have a great ending already in place. This is obviously, I think, the most popular show on TV right now. Do you think that if like Thrones, for example, was coming back later on in the year, let's say they were dropping it last season, would this show have been something that everybody was as excited for, or do you think it's like a lack of huge shows right now that kind of led this to be this popular?
Yeah, I think the timing is definitely that, just because not because it was a week-to-week show. I think that probably benefited a slow start. People were more inclined to give it a shot when there was only 1 episode for them to watch. Like, all right, let me check it again. Still wasn't really feeling 2, but they watched it. So if they had dropped 10 at once, a lot more people would have just bailed just because it's more intimidating, right? So I think it's definitely the product of the environment we're in. We're gonna have some big shows coming back in the fall. It'll be hard to get eyeballs, but it came out perfect time. And yeah, in fact, I just don't think HBO probably wouldn't have ran this against Thrones.
Right.
To be fair,
Yeah, and they got Insecure coming back right now. Sharp Objects wrapping up soon. HBO is still pumping out that content. They're not going to be lacking for it. But
coming back before we know it next month.
Man, crazy! This year is freaking flying by. But yeah, if you haven't checked out Succession, give it 4 episodes. And I know it's hard to say like, oh, stick with the show for 4 hours because time is valuable, especially when you have so many options to choose from. But this is really a show that if you can get past the 4th episode, I think you'll be hooked and glad that you stuck with it.
Very rewarding.
Also, shout out Nick Britell, the guy that did the soundtrack and the main opening. That piano,
Oh, yeah. Great cue.
amazing, perfect. Show just overall is a class show, so definitely check it out.